Hey, y'all. You're listening to Wise Tales, where we get to soak in the uplifting stories and personal journeys of professionals who are really making waves in today's dynamic workforce. In each episode, we connect with genuine trailblazers in the field, learning all about what it takes to grow brands, foster resilient work cultures, and strengthen your business through innovative training and operations solutions. Let's dive into the latest episode. I'm your host, Evan Mielek. So today we are thrilled to have a true industry innovator joining us. Jim Bitticks is the president and COO of Dave's Hot Chicken. Jim began his fast casual journey when he was just 15 years old as a busboy. Since then, he's made a remarkable impact with brands like CKE, Blaze Pizza, and now Dave's Hot Chicken. He was also recently appointed to Batrista's advisory board. Jim has been at the forefront of scaling franchise networks and implementing groundbreaking technologies, including AI-powered solutions and automated systems that are shaping the future of the dining industry. During his time with Blaze, he was instrumental in taking the company from just 2 locations to 372. Now, under his leadership, Dave's Hot Chicken has grown from 4 locations to over 200, with commitments for 900 more. They're on track to reach 1,000 commitments by the end of 2024 and expect to have up to 300 open locations by year's end. It's a lot of growth. They've also expanded to Canada and the Middle East with 11 international locations. Thanks to his leadership, Dave's Hot Chicken has also earned several accolades, including being named one of the top 5 hottest concepts, a QSR breakout brand in 2022, and making the list of Next Big Things by Jonathan Mays. Most recently, it was recognized as the fastest growing restaurant chain of 2023 and awarded the title of #1 brand of the year on Fast Casual's top 100 movers and shakers. I feel like that is a huge CV that you've got. And so I would love to ask a couple of questions about your story. So you once said that Dave's Hot Chicken is on its way to becoming one of the iconic restaurant brands. You have the awards and accolades to back up that statement. So, love to hear more about your Dave's Hot Chicken story and how you feel about the brand.
Oh, well, I can start really easily off with I love the brand. It's been such a fun ride. I've been on board a little more than 4 years now. I joined the team when there were just 4 Dave's Hot Chickens open. We're up to about 224 locations open as of probably tomorrow, if I have that right, or very close to that. And it's been a wild and fun ride, made even more fun by the fact that having just come off of the Blaze Pizza journey, I was there for about 8 years as chief restaurant officer. We did the same thing. I started at Blaze when there were just 2 locations, and that was my first foray into the sort of franchisor side of things. I had worked before that on the company operations side of things at CKE restaurants, which is Carl's Jr. and Hardee's. And I'd always done company operations. When I made the jump over to Blaze, it was like setting up a full brand and all of the different layers for that, which was a completely new experience for me at the time. Jumping over to Dave's, my team and I, most of my team came with me. We had all just done it. And so what was great about doing Dave's was that because we had just done it at Blaze, we sort of got to avoid some of the mistakes that we made at Blaze along the way. Like we knew not to do this and only to do that, and to put a lot of focus on very specific approaches that we knew worked. And we kind of got to scuttle the approaches we knew didn't work. I have 4 kids, and by the 4th one, I feel like my wife is an expert. Like she doesn't do any of the dumb stuff anymore. You know, like this last one, he's like money in the bank. Like he was smart and quick and like, just learned everything so much faster than the first one, who was a little bit of a dud. But that's just because my wife was learning. I'm just kidding, obviously. But that's just because my wife was learning her way through what works best. And so Dave's kind of being our second child, if you will, for my team and myself, we got to do everything better and more right than we had done it with Blaze Pizza, which was great. I mean, it made it a lot more fun. When you make a mistake and you do something dumb, you go, man, that was dumb. But with Dave's, we got to sort of skip all that and just cut to the end of the story where, you know, you win, where you have like a great experience and everything. Everything worked.
So, one of the things that we love to talk about on this podcast is doing the things today that will make tomorrow even better. And so, it sounds like you're going to have a lot of tips and tricks to share with all of the listeners, especially since operating a franchise organization is very, very different, arguably, than a corporate run organization. And so, I know Ryan has several questions that he's probably dying to ask.
Yeah, actually, I really wanted to start, Jim, by just like a quick um, Billings, Montana has a Dave's Hot Chicken, and my wife can be hard to impress sometimes. It's difficult to choose a place to eat. Um, Typically on long road trips, we end up passing through Billings, and the number one spot now is Dave's Hot Chicken. Like, she's obsessed with it now, and it's super cool. Funny thing is, we have kids, so kids aren't waiting for food. I'm in there, which gives me an opportunity to kind of look around, see how things run, and there's that restaurant is busy, and there's always things going on, and I think one of the things that stands out is the brand and the consistency, and it always gets me thinking about I know you've talked about some of the non-negotiables for Dave's Hot Chicken and how it's important to stay true to the core elements. Mind-blowing chicken, great service, and an awesome vibe. As a franchisee, how do you do that? And how do you ensure those core elements are being adhered to?
Yes. So that was one of the learnings we definitely got from Blaze. We went through an experience. Our CEO there, his name was Jim Mises, and he's sort of legendary in the QSR business. And he made a big deal about coming up with core values and mission statement and all of those things early on. And I remember sort of rolling my eyes just a little bit at like, this is a waste of time. Like our job is to get restaurants open. And it was a whole exercise that the entire organization participated in. And we were, I mean, I don't know how many people we had at the time, probably 30 or 40. So it was a lot of people involved in like defining those for Blaze. But what I saw later on as we continued to grow is that we would come back to many of the values that we had locked in on. We came back to the keep it simple. That was one of our values. Another one was remember the people behind the pizza, or value the people behind the pizza was actually the exact wording. And we would sometimes say those phrases in a meeting when we are getting too far off base, and it would sort of serve to bring everybody back. So when I landed here at Dave's, that was sort of one of my very first things to do, was to say, what's our mission, vision, and what are our core values or our company values? Because as an all franchise organization, we have, I think, 90 franchisees, which means 90 different companies that are sort of interpreting what Dave's is supposed to be about. And so by defining that up front early on, as much as they're going to have their own mission statement and their own value statements and all of those things for their individual companies, they get to plug into what we've set for the brand as a whole. So that was one of the very first sort of initiatives that I kicked off when I joined, was to define our mission, vision, purpose, and our core values. And one of them was exactly what you said there about the food, the service, and then the vibe of the restaurants. So I think that was 100% like necessary to define those pieces before we start bringing in lots of different franchisees that are all running their own companies. And we made sure to incorporate the original founders who are all still partners in the business, and sort of what they initiated, why they initiated it, what their belief system was, and what they were focused on as they created the concept. And those are still the sort of the seeds, if you will, or the roots of the things that we've defined and put words around so that they can be communicated and taught and trained. We say that, like, teach it and preach it. Like, we can teach it and preach it to the franchise owners and then all of their managers who are going to be running our restaurants across the world.
One of the things I noticed is a focus on that user generated content as part of your marketing campaigns. And I'm curious if the content that you are curating and using and reposting, and I know you've said before that you don't pay for a lot of that content, right? It is just reposts and things showing up on the interwebs for you. Do you feel that aligns to the core values that you set out? Because so often, right, we set ourselves up with these lofty goals in our mission statement, and then our end customers don't feel that same thing. And it seems to me like there isn't an intersection there.
Right. Well, so it's interesting as the brand was kicked off by these three childhood friends, Armand, Dave, and Tommy, who wanted to make a lot of money and support their families. They were all in their mid 20s or so. And so they had lots of different ideas. And one of them was to open a restaurant. Another one was to do a food truck. But a major problem with both of those was that they had no money. They literally, between the three of them, had $900. So you can't really open a restaurant or buy a food truck for $900. But they decided to do a restaurant in a parking lot under an Easy Up tent. It was sort of popular at the time. Those types of pop up restaurants were popping up all over LA. And so they did it. And they spent a lot of time putting together really good recipes. They found a spot and they opened up. And on like the fourth day they were open, they got strategically lucky and that they got an LA food blogger to stop by. And why I say strategically lucky is that they were purposely tagging bloggers on their Instagram account saying, you should come try the food, you should come try the food. And so one of them came out, his name is Farley Elliott. He was with Eater LA and he stopped in on the third or fourth night open, tried the food and posted the next day, late night hot chicken stand might just blow your mind. And that evening, they had a line around the block of like 100 people waiting to try the food. And so that Instagram account is sort of was the secret ingredient, if you want to call it that, to getting the brand launched. If you go scroll through our Instagram account, you're going to see nothing but pictures of food. And the food looks like grimy and delicious and goopy and like, there's seasoning everywhere and it looks really real. It looks really authentic. And Armand's focus, Armand being one of the founders, he's our marketing guru. He's like the social media savant who has always run the Instagram account. He said people really like the way the food looks, and that's one of the key pieces to why they come and try the food. And so when we expanded into TikTok, rather than paying an agency to create content, rather than putting a lot of emphasis on making, TikTok dance videos or any of those types of things, we just let people post their stuff and then we reposted the stuff because their reactions, their authentic responses to like how the food tastes, you'll see somebody bite into Dave's hot chicken for the first time and their eyes will roll in the back of their heads or they're like, wow, like it's like a surprising, shocking, like, wow, that's so good. That does more for us than some of the created content that people pay agencies to put together for you. And that has been really effective. I think we started our actual TikTok channel, I want to say in September of 2022. And we're in September of 2024 right now. And we are up to, is it 2.8 million? It's a huge number of followers to have been able to pull in for such a short period of time. And it's all comes back to that sort of authentic look and feel, just like the original pictures on Instagram. So the authenticity of it, the realness of the media, what we're showing, the pictures and the videos, I think has driven a lot of people to be interested in trying it because it does look so real, it does look so authentic, and it does look so good.
I really like hearing the backstories of that stuff. And I had an opportunity to review one of the presentations you did for the restaurant spaces. And you really dove into kind of the history and a little bit of a lot of what we're talking about here. But I really wanted to kind of circle back on the training aspect and especially what you had said to the kind of those core values and then training people to those core values to a degree. I think the most entertaining part of that presentation was the training videos that you're doing, the new training videos,
Um,
the blow your
Yeah.
mind training videos that are kind of on brand. Um, which I mean, I'd love to steal some of those. Honestly,
Yeah.
they were super entertaining.
Absolutely.
Even just a little snippet that I was able to see. So kind of in that vein, how are you going about this training? The kind of this blow your mind training videos, and what are you hoping that it's going to accomplish?
Yeah. So I'm very passionate about training. I've always been like very into the idea that when you treat people really well, that then you get, better than normal outcomes. It's when you don't train people well, or when you sort of half train them or partially train them, it takes, double the time, triple the time to get the outcome that should just have come naturally. And so when we were at Blaze, we started with paper training materials and quickly found that they would be out of date and a waste of money, essentially. We'd have inventory of all these printed materials. And Juan Lopez, who I've worked with now for, oh, wow, like 12 years or 13 years, he's sort of my right hand guy. And he came up with PlayerLink, actually, found PlayerLink. We were looking at a couple of your competitors for some type of a digital approach to training. And we really only wanted the ability for franchisees, franchise restaurants to pull up the materials digitally. We didn't want all of the bells and whistles of some of the other systems, like a communication system. And this is literally 8 years ago, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. And so a player link that's added a lot of different layers to it now. At the time was pretty much just a digital approach to looking at the materials. And that was perfect for us. And it was a actually much lower cost option too at the time than some of the other ones that we had explored. So we landed on PlayerLink, and it became our digital training solution for Blaze, and it was perfect because it allowed us to deliver the paper training materials in PDF format on an iPad, which was very on brand for Blaze Pizza, with sort of a young clientele, but also a young team in most locations. So it was perfect. We had our recipe book, and all of our procedures were on a mounted tablet back in the prep area, and it worked. Like I said, it worked perfectly. We landed at Dave's, and as I was saying earlier, we sort of knew exactly what worked and what didn't work, and so we went straight to PlayerLink and brought PlayerLink into Dave's to do the same thing. Where we've gone to the next level at Dave's is that we went out and we hired a guy to help us produce really good training videos. We specifically didn't choose some of the more tried and true training materials or training video vendors that exist in the market. And not because they do bad work or anything like that. I'm sure they do excellent work, but we wanted to do something that was really relevant, really cool, really like special, not just a training video and not sort of like a hackneyed, like trite approach to doing training videos. So we hired a guy that normally does commercials and music videos, and his name is Ben Hess Productions, and he did a phenomenal job. He partnered with our director of training, and together they created like the scripts and sort of the flows for each of these training videos. Each one of them, we have 14 of them. Each one of them has a different sort of I don't know, like gimmick or shtick to it. Like one is like sort of after an aerobics video, instruction video. Another one is a takeoff on sort of an airline training video or airline takeoff video type of thing. They're all really funny. They're all really well done. And the best thing about it is that the majority of the actors in the videos are actual trainers that go out and open new restaurants. So there's this very like authentic feel to it that you watch the videos, they're engaging. You definitely want to see what happens. And at the same time, they're educational, or they're teaching employees how to perform the necessary steps of each station. So those turned out amazing. The clip I showed at that conference that you were talking about was sort of the preview clip. We actually just finished them about a month ago and released them to the franchisees, and I'm hearing nothing but great things about them. With PlayerLink, they're they're big files, but PlayerLink has a compression system. That's one of the reasons we've always loved PlayerLink. And the videos play seamlessly. They're on the well, you guys know this obviously. Like they're on the tablets. They update overnight if there's any updates, and there's no issues with buffering or not being able to watch the videos or any of those types of things. So I feel like we've really gone to the next level on the training side of things, and I fully sort of expect to see our restaurants perform better and to get more of that brand feel. Because how much can you get from a piece of paper that you're reading? That, in all honesty, a lot of people may not even read. One of the key goals of the training videos was to make the training so good that restaurant managers actually like want to use it, like want to show their teams, here, watch this video, and it'll be great because you're going to learn everything you need to learn, and then come meet me at the station in 12 minutes or however long the video is. So there are a lot of different layers to it, but that was one of the main ones, was to make the training like desirable to use, if that makes sense. Desirable to watch, but desirable to use from the manager's perspective as well.
So it sounds like you have intentionally and authentically, which I love that, but incorporated technology alongside that human component, right? And so knowing that technology can get you so far, but there's still a human shoulder to shoulder kind of experiential thing. One of the things that you said was a desired outcome was the restaurant performance and that brand consistency. Um, I know you, and based on that speaking session you gave, you use a lot of tools to help you measure satisfaction and all of the pieces that go into that. Are there any specific call outs that you would note are more important than others as far as performance is concerned within those franchises?
From the franchisor perspective, ultimately, we want franchisees that run great restaurants, but we also want franchisees that are like really profitable. We want them to make a lot of money, so they want to continue to open restaurants, and so that their focus is on the business. I've worked in other systems before where the profit model wasn't great, and so what happens with franchisees is they're looking for a return on investment, and so when the return on investment in this franchise isn't great, they say, you know what, I could build three, yogurt shops for the same amount of money I'm investing in this location, and I make, twice as much money. Well, they're going to shift their focus and their capital over to doing three yogurt shops instead of doing another one of our restaurants. So, the key pieces from that side of it are the unit level economics and making sure that there's a really high return on invested capital for the franchisees. From our perspective, once they have that, we have a lot of leverage then in that situation to, I don't say force them, because I think franchisees are business people and want to make good money. So they want to do it too, but it gives us some leverage over helping them perform their best and get the most out of those restaurants. So we manage franchisees by the guest metrics for the most part. So we look a lot at their Google scores, Yelp scores, although Yelp to a lesser degree than Google. Google's sort of like the everyman's rating system. Yelp is more elite. Yelp is more for like my wife or my mom. It's like for it's not for the age group that usually frequents a Dave's, to be totally honest. So Yelp is less important to us than is the Google side of things. But we put a lot of focus, emphasis, and pressure on franchisees for those ratings to be strong. And so anytime that those ratings start to slip, we put pressure on trying to get those ratings up, which is why the training aspect of it, why the training videos and having a very consistent approach. And, this is, I have 4 kids and they are all not television watchers. They're like YouTube watchers or TikTok users or any of those things. Like my daughter used to fall asleep watching YouTube as opposed to fall asleep watching TV, and that's sort of a major shift. I think my wife just got rid of cable, which is like wild to me because I remember getting cable when I was a kid and like it was the best thing ever. The idea that we don't have cable anymore because you watch all the content on your phone, it's just like, I mean, it's just the way it is, but that's where the changes happen. So by moving everything to a video format, including, besides just the initial training that you do, additional supplemental training that we're bringing in on a quarterly basis, or how we train our first level managers, which is a project for this upcoming year, would be to create a video series around that. Doing all of those things around video is really the medium that I think communicates best with most of the people that are working in our restaurants today. So I mean, that's sort of the impetus behind why we wanted to shift to video, and the fact that it's really easy to implement and utilize on PlayerLink is just, it's the cherry on top.
Well, of course, we love to hear that because, it makes everything better.
It does. That's true. I said that when we were looking at Blaze for a place to do it, one of the thoughts was that we would embed little 30-second vignettes or videos like how to sauce a pizza properly. And we thought, well, we could just use Dropbox for that. Like the video vignette could be on Dropbox. They would go click a link and it would access Dropbox and you'd watch the video vignette. I mean, it was a good idea. It just doesn't work. Like there, you don't have the bandwidth or whatever. There's buffering. There's all sorts of issues. That's why the compression piece of PlayerLink and how it works and how it like works so well. When I was at CKE Restaurants, which is now over 10 years ago, yeah, it was like 11 years ago, I think, they had just rolled out LMS training stations in the restaurants, and they were using satellite for internet connections. And that was the jankiest, worst applied version of, and it was early. I'm not criticizing Carl's. It was a great group of people and awesome trainee folks that had been there for years. It's just the technology at the time was just, it was sort of weak, and as much as you wanted them to see a video or whatever, it just didn't work well. And today it's a lot different, but specifically with the PlayerLink platform, it's really great.
Well, and going back to your statement about, several statements about profitability, right? Minutes matter. And so when you're
Sure.
taking people off the floor to do training or you have it in those slower periods, all of those moments impact top and bottom line. And so having that accessible at the right moment when someone's available to take the training, I think it's key for a lot of our clients for sure.
That's for sure. And on the video, what's interesting or what's beneficial to the video side of things is like while the person on the screen is verbalizing whatever the steps of a thing are or whatever, there are also pop-ups happening in the background that are sort of like visual cues. So like if they say, you wash your hands for 20 seconds at whatever temperature of water, a pop-up says like a clock showing the 20 seconds or whatever. So there are layers to the training or the teaching that are more than just one dimensional. It's like a 2 or 3 dimensional approach, which I think has proven itself to be much more effective for how you actually learn, and how real people learn. So that's another benefit to doing it through video. And then it's always the same, right? Like once you produce a product that people like and think is really good, and then they start using it consistently, over time, you start to see the improvement in the retention of information and knowledge that the trainees have or get from that experience.
Shifting gears just a little bit. So you're speaking at the Fast Casual Summit later this year, and your topic is on the robot revolution, and how restaurants are preparing for it. Um, with the restaurant industry facing the triple threat, which is rising labor counts, shrinking profit margins, and increasing demand for speed and efficiency, how are you tackling this, and how is Dave's Hot Chicken kind of preparing for this?
Yeah, so that goes back to that idea of return on invested capital. And right now, Dave's has one of the strongest ROIC numbers. I think we're under 2 years to pay back a restaurant based on our average volumes and average cost structures. There are groups that do better than that, and obviously, I'm sure there are a few groups that don't do quite as well. But for it to be on average under 2 years, at an average unit volume of 3 million, is a really strong number. And so there is a lot of focus from myself, our entire team, our CFO, our CEO on making sure that we really protect that. We've started exploring different approaches to automation. I guess self-order kiosks aren't really automation, but they are a potential way to maybe save money. At least that's what we thought. We fast tracked. There was the minimum wage increase that was a big deal here about, well, the announcement of it about a year ago. It went into effect April 1st of this year. And so late last year, we fast tracked the test for self ordering kiosks for guests to be able to order for themselves, with the thought being that you'd be able to cut maybe hours out of the schedule, since we're going to take this like 25% or almost 25% wage increase. We could find ways to start cutting out some of the labor. That was actually an incorrect hypothesis that you'd be able to pull labor out by adding in the kiosks. But what actually happened was that we saw that the check average went up. The kiosk check average is higher by between 5 and 10%, depending on location, which now we're sort of attributing to the idea that when you're doing your own ordering, you're not embarrassed about like ordering a shake also, or adding on additional food or exploring the menu, which I do all the time. Like when I take my 11-year-old to McDonald's or whatever, I literally go to like sweet treats. And like if they have a new thing, I'll add the new thing. I'll be like, well, let's try it, and that's like $2. Whereas I probably wouldn't do that like through the drive-through or at the front counter. The other thing we think is that the dwell time on the kiosk seems to be higher. You don't feel as much pressure to go quickly or to make a fast decision because either the person in front of you feels like they need to get away to go like bag orders or do something different, or even that there's someone behind you waiting to take their order. So then you feel like you kind of have to hurry up and get out of the way. This increase on the self-order kiosk check average actually has been very helpful to the labor model because you're not spending more labor to get this additional increase. But you are actually then redeploying some of the labor because now you've got like 3 or 4 kiosks and people are ordering, and now more orders are coming into the back. So we didn't cut any labor with the kiosks. I said this on another interview that I did with Lisa Jennings at Restaurant Business, and it was on YouTube. And some how everybody everybody's snarky and they make comments on YouTube or Twitter. Somebody put in like the first comment is like, yeah, right, you're not trying to cut labor or whatever. And what has happened is that we haven't cut any labor. The labor has actually been redeployed, but we're making more sales on it. So it's a more profitable model. So testing that in support of, or sort of in service to the franchisees and the franchise community has led us somewhere that we think is going to be very positive. We haven't released the kiosks as a test thing for the rest of the country yet, just because we're a little bit worried about the idea that I don't want to be like, and I don't mean to disparage any other fast foods, but you've seen this shift in fast food locations where they're taking out cash registers or POS terminals, and they're replacing them with kiosks that are just where the cash register used to be. And so now instead of having employees, you walk into the counter and you're just like, it's on you. Like you just go in, you do your thing. And that isn't what I want for us. If we're going to put in kiosks, I want it to be like an either or option. I want to be like, if you prefer to use the kiosk, you can, but we still have somebody here to take your order if that's what you prefer also. We're also trying to set it up so that the kiosks are near the registers, like sort of not quite side by side, but close enough that if you have a question and you're using a kiosk, you're in verbal and visual proximity to a real employee, so the real employee could help you. You could say, I can't figure out how to put in my app over here. Oh, let me help you. And they can just like reach over and help you. So we've sort of tried to make it something that is helpful to the restaurants, but doesn't diminish the service level of the fast casual experience. We're also dabbling in robot French fry arms that like they do this and they drop the French fries for you. I'm sure somebody might say, oh yeah, you're not trying to cut labor. We really aren't trying to cut labor. We're actually trying to make the the cooking process like less stressful for our team, there is a certain amount of labor that you're going to allot for every dollar of sales. It's like probably 20 cents on the dollar or so. So, you can do the math on that, but essentially if I can make the the pressure periods, like the high peak, high volume periods, like less stressful on the employees by taking something like French fries, which is just very easy for a robot arm to drop and pull back up, shake, and then dump into a warming a warm pan, then that probably makes the experience better. Same thing for dishwashers. We've been adamant about trying to put dishwashers into restaurants for lots of reasons, but one of them is it makes the experience better for the employees. As a former, dishwasher, busboy, fast food worker myself, like I can wash the dishes as fast as a dishwashing machine can wash them, but I go home a lot more like tired. I'm covered in water. I smell like food. My back hurts. If I have a dishwashing machine there, I don't get to cut labor. Like you still need somebody to operate the dishwashing machine. You still need someone to spray out the dishes, to put them on the rack, move them in and out of the machine, and then to put them away so they can dry. So you don't really get to cut any labor out. But what you get to do is you get to make the experience not as hated, not as scorned. Like I would much rather wash dishes with the support of a dishwashing machine than I would doing it by myself. We opened a location here in LA back in 2021. It was so busy, and everybody was helping out, all hands on deck type thing, pitching in, and I went back to help wash dishes, and they were like, "No, no, you can't wash dishes." The manager, her name is Betty. She was like, "Jim, please don't. Like, you're going to embarrass me." I'm like, "There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Like, I can wash dishes all day long, and you can let your employees get trained and learn how to do the line. I don't want to be here next weekend, quite frankly. Like, I'd rather wash dishes this weekend and let your people learn how to make all the food this weekend, if that makes sense." I washed dishes for those 2 days. I was in such pain, like physical pain, my legs, my back. I was, like I said, covered in food and water. We called Eco Lab the next, like on Monday morning. I was like, I need a dishwashing machine here because there was so much, the volume of dishes was so much. So we've done a lot of that. We've done things with the dishwashing machines, with the self-ordering kiosks. Now with the robot arm, I've got that in 2 locations that we're testing. And none of it is wrapped around the idea of cutting labor. Like we're not looking for some magic fix to cut labor. And I don't care what comment somebody makes about that. That is the honest truth. But trying to make the job more desirable, more likable, more doable for the employees and for the workforce that's available to the restaurant industry, especially the QSR or fast casual industry.
Well, and we did a survey last year that really talked about how when workers feel stressed, right, that's when you're going to have high levels of retention challenges. You're going to have unfulfilled workplaces, and quite honestly, that's when the most injuries occur, when they're already feeling stressed out and doing all of these things. And so it sounds like your approach early on, we talked about this a little bit too, is coupling and partnering technology, dishwashers or, French fry arms, whatever you want to call them, alongside the humans. And so we know we still need a human component to do a lot of that work. But if we can alleviate some of those incidental stressors, it is and the survey also found that employees, frontline workers want to be loyal to companies. And so if we can alleviate some of those early stressors in a job, much higher likelihood of those employees staying within the organization and being really, really valuable assets as they continue to
Right.
grow, as the companies continue to grow. So I think it serves everyone really well to look at those opportunities to mitigate stress.
I think when you make the process desirable or more desirable than not desirable, that you're more likely to get people to do it. As an example, um, the idea of the dishes. I was just in a restaurant actually on Saturday, one of the ones with the fry arms. I wanted to see it during like a peak period. And I asked the manager, I said, like, tell me, do you still love the dishwasher or do you hate it now? And I was like, no, I love it. And whenever I go in that restaurant, there are never dishes in the sink. And he told me, he said, our rule is that every time there's dirty dishes, you just put them in the dishwasher. whoever takes the dirty dishes back, rinses it, puts it on the rack, puts it in the dishwasher. And he goes, and that way it never piles up. And, the dishes are always, clean. And it's sort of a clean as you go approach, which is like an old school phrase that I remember hearing when I was a kid. Or, you only handle a piece of paper once. That's sort of like time management 101. Like you never like put it away to have to put it away later. That approach, which I had never occurred to me for dishwashers, that was like a thing. But I see that it works in his restaurant because every single time I'm there, they don't have any dirty dishes because they just handle them as they go. If you were just doing it in the sink full of dishes, what you would be doing is you'd be waiting for it to pile up. The manager would then send somebody back to bust out dishes for an hour, and then that person would just do dishes for an hour. If that makes sense. So there are layers to what you just said that really do take off some of the stress, and they make it easier to run the restaurant over long periods of time. So I agree with you.
I feel like this kind of segued really nicely. And you touched on innovation so much, and that was the next piece that I wanted to talk about was a little bit on innovation because you're speaking at FS Tech this month. It's a session called Presidential Showdown: Leading the Charge in Restaurant Tech. Um, Kind of furthering that, without getting too far into any details about what might be coming in the future, but how do you innovate? Um, how does uh, the company as a whole innovate and bring things further?
So it's a great question. I worked with a guy at Blaze for the last like 3 years that I was there. His name's Leon DeBoyan. And about 2 years ago, I hired him here as our chief technology officer. And for the Dave's Hot Chicken management team and for myself personally, I rely on Leon to be the guy that's sort of thinking ahead, talking about what's coming up, what we need to be aware of, and what we need to be focused on. And like the tech group reports into me, which is funny because I'm certainly not a tech expert of any kind, but what I think works well about the relationship I have with Leon is it's very, he's a very down to earth, real guy. He gets how stressful technology is for people, and he has a way of being able to sort of explain it or break it down so that it doesn't feel stressful. He has that sense to him, like, oh, like, come here, baby. Like, I'll take care of you. Like on the tech side of things, you feel like you can just like nestle into his bosom, and he'll fix your email. Your Zoom isn't working. Like, no problem, honey. Like, I'll take care of you. All very masculine. Like, I'm not saying that he would be in any way unmasculine in his approach, but he is very helpful and he is very forward thinking, and he makes it easy. And so, I'll tell him, I'll go like, these pagers suck. Like, what could we do where you're texting people that their order is ready on their phone because they already have it. They're already looking at it the whole time they're waiting. They're like this the whole exact time. And so they will, uh, we will as a company benefit from like, how do we move away from this version to that version? He's that guy that will come up with a solution. So I think also we have these trainers, the trainers that I mentioned that are in those videos. They're all in their like early 20s. They're all really like smart and pragmatic. And one of them's our director of training, and he'll come and say, "Hey, why are we doing this?" And I'll say, "I don't know, what would be better?" And he'll say, "It would be better if we did this." And then we'll take that back, and between Leon and myself and Juan and any of the other people I've mentioned so far, we come up with like, okay, like, is that even an option? Is it possible to do that? What would it take to do that? And I think we've come up with some pretty, like, I don't say cool, but like better approaches to some of the things that you normally run into. We just made an adjustment to the way that we to our KDS system, the way we like manage all the orders coming out of the restaurant, which was a product of the trainer saying it would be better if we did this, and us trying to mimic sort of the FedEx meets Starbucks approach to orders. One of our biggest complaints is order accuracy. And so when you walk into a Starbucks and it's a busy Starbucks, they've got this counter full of drinks, but every one of them has a label on it. And you can pick it up and you can say, oh, this one's for Ryan, or this one's for Jim, or this one's for whoever. Like, whose order is whose. And so we are doing that with our orders now because of that potential for inaccuracy. And then also the other piece of that is as an order makes its way down the line, we're really busy. Our restaurants are very, very busy. The idea that each order has a label so that as it goes down the line, you know exactly what order it is sort of the FedEx, like they scan it at every point. That's how come you can track it and know that it's like on its way, or Amazon's version of it too, like, oh, you're the 10th stop, you know, knowing where your order is in the system. That's sort of the idea. And so we've married those things, and Leon's helped us figure out how to do that. So that's how we do it. It's Leon. That's my answer. It's Leon. Leon Devoyan. That's my answer.
Sounds like every organization needs a Leon. I like
They
it.
do, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I want to be super respectful of your time because I know that you are very, very busy, and it sounds like you have potentially more stores opening tomorrow.
We
Um,
do.
Definitely some opening before the end of the year. So I'd like to end every conversation with kind of a left field question for you. If you were to design your own bumper sticker, what would it say and why?
Hmm. I have a couple of personal mantras. The one I think I like best is this idea of never give up. So I'd probably say like never give up would be the bumper sticker, because I always feel like as much as something feels like it might be what's the right word? Like as much as something feels like it's not going to happen or it's not going to work out, or uh, it always seems to work out. And the thing is, you just stick to it, just keep to it. We did a private equity sale at Blaze, and just like any other private equity sale, you know, pretty much everything changed after that. And I remember thinking, it was great. I got a big check. I had options, and it was the biggest heyday I've ever had. But everything changed after that. And I remember thinking like a year later, like if I give back the money and have the job the way it was, what would I do? And it's sort of like one of those things like you go like, I don't know, that's tough. Like that money was money I put aside for my kids to go to college. We put money down on a house, you know, so it's sort of a give and take. And like things usually do, um, they didn't get better, they got worse for a while. And I thought, man, I got to the point where I was saying that I would have preferred to have given back the money and kept it the way it was. And then this opportunity at Dave's popped up. And all of a sudden, all these pieces just fell into place. And I am 100 times happier as a person, as a professional today than I was, you know, that last couple of years at Blaze. And everything has worked. I brought almost the entire team with me. We're all better off. We're all, and that's not saying anything about bad about Blaze. Like it was always going to be one of those types of endeavors, and I always wish them the best of luck. I feel like so much love for Blaze. So I'm not saying it in a negative way, but it just worked out to our benefit to come here to Dave's Hot Chicken. So that's my answer for the bumper sticker. Like never give up, like never lose hope or never lose faith, and any of those terms in there, because you never know, it's just gonna like blow up and be amazing. And it's been absolutely amazing since we've been here.
That's great.
I cannot thank you enough for your time today. This has been awe-inspiring, very, very exciting. I am on my way to my nearest Dave's Hot Chicken for dinner tonight because
Okay,
now
very good.
great. Um,
Great, great. Glad to hear that.
but yeah, we are definitely watching y'all very, very closely and making sure we support you in every way we can because you're a phenomenal partner for us, and we certainly can't wait to see what Dave's Hot Chicken is going to do in the future.
Great. Thank you.
It was absolutely a pleasure. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Wise Tales. Help us tell these tales by leaving a 5-star review, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. This episode is proudly sponsored by WiseTale, your all-in-one learning and operations partner. Committed to continual innovation and improvement, WiseTale solutions set industry standards and redefine workplace learning through a blended approach, creating limitless engagement opportunities and generating results that matter. Anytime, anywhere. Learn how to unlock potential anywhere work happens at wisetail.com.